We're going to continue today, and there may be some melodies you've heard and maybe some, that are just like introductory melodies, but what I was talking about last time, and I couldn't find the connecting piece, is in Halach Ma'anya, which is on page 8 in this Haggadah. This is the bread of affliction. It ends with L'shana haba'a b'nei horin. And when you get to the answer to the questions, Avadim hayinu l'faro b'mitzrayim, Avadim hayinu. And the last part of that, ata, now, ata b'nei chorin. That, as I was telling my students always, and I couldn't find it, is at the end of Halach Ma'anya. Now we are children of free people. B'nei, sons of Chorin, free men. And so that comes in the answer, which is right after the questions. And I couldn't find it last week. I couldn't remember where it was, but it's after Halach Ma'anya. This is the bread of affliction. Because I would always say to the students, so where do those words come? Because it's not here in Avadim Hayinu. It says Avadim Hayinu L'Pharaoh b'Mitzrayim v'Yotzianu Adonai Eloheinu Misham, blah blah blah. But it doesn't have the words B'nei Chorin. If you look back on Halach Ma'anya, the last 2 words B'nei Chorin. So we go Ata B'nei Chorin. Okay, now we are sons of free men. That's where it comes from. So we're not going to go through the whole answer. However, there's in part of the answer, which is the whole recitation of the Haggadah. Why I can't get this off my. They send me all these things and I can't get rid of them. Well, there you go. I have no idea how to get rid of this. They want you to subscribe to these things. Does it say maybe not now? There you go. All right. So the next important part for you to know is the 4 sons. Of course, there's all kinds of melodies, like the Ballad of the 4 Sons, Sell the Father, to Clementine. But if you want to have somebody read it, if you want to read it, so you've got 4 different ones to choose. You can be any one of them. You could be the wise, or you could be the wicked, or the Rasha. You could be Chacham or Rasha. If you choose, you could be the simple son. I don't think you want to be that one. And then the young one, the one who does not know how to answer. Some people have said that this is part of the whole idea of the evening. The whole idea of the Haggadah is actually built into the idea of the 4 sons, because we do things that will appeal to all of them. So for the wise one, as I always tell my students, what should be done, sounds like, Heyman, what should be done to the smartest students? I tell my ESL, my Latina women this, what prize, what reward should I give to the smartest students? And they look at me dumbfounded, because I give them chocolates, and if they do well, I give them, treats and all kinds of things. So what should be done to the student who is so smart? So the answer is more work and more difficult work. And they look at me like I have horns. Which, of course, it says Karen. It describes Moses when he came down from Har Sinai with his, he looked like he had a halo around him, like Karen, like horns, and which is picked up by anti-Semites. Anyway, so the 4 sons is really fun. Hi, Nancy.
Hi.
The 4 sons in my Haggadah, and I gave you, if you have this one, it's on page 10. There's a little introduction that I always do because I lead the Seder. And let's see where it starts. Okay. It starts on line 10. Baruch HaMakom. Makom, which means place. Hi, Francine. Unmute. So the word Makom also means God. He is the place. He or she is it. That is the place. So it says, Baruch HaMakom, and the translation in English is blessed is God. Baruch hamakom baruch hu. Blessed is the place. Blessed is God. Blessed is He. Baruch shenatan Torah. Blessed is He who gave the Torah. Le'amo Yisrael. To the nation of Israel. Baruch hu. Blessed is He. Now comes about the four sons. Keneged, about Arba Abanim, about four sons. Dibra Torah, the Torah speaks. Echad, one. Chacham, like in Yiddish we say he's a groisa chacham. He's a smart one. The achad, Rasha, and I don't like the translation of wicked. It's just one who doesn't feel that this Seder speaks to him. This tradition is not for him. He's sort of a little outside of things. It would be like your average teenager. Rasha, the echad tam, and one we call in Yiddish a tam tut, one who is foolish, a stupid. Tam really means tam, stupid. The echad, and one, she'eno, who does not, yodea, know, lish'ol, and that's where you get the word she'ela. It's from the same verb. Lish'ol means to ask, and a she'ela, or in Yiddish, the real, the black hats say, a shoila, I question. Okay, and one who doesn't know how to ask. Lo yodea, lish'ol. Okay, so what I was saying about the approach to Passover is there's something for everyone. It has to do with what I just said. With the smart children, we'll look around and see that there's some weird things going on, and we're not eating bread, and we're eating matzah, and we're dipping vegetables, and we're singing songs, and we're doing all this stuff. And they have a shank bone. They have this plate that has this weird stuff, the hard-boiled egg, and has a shank bone. What's going on? The smart one, as you know, and many of you are the chachamot, the smart ladies, will ask the question, what is all this? What are you telling me? What is this all about? All right, the smart one always wants to ask the questions. I was a pain in the tuchus because I always ask a lot of questions. Then the next one is a Rasha. The Rasha is the one who's looking on his phone and sending notes and maybe spitballs, doesn't care about any of this. That's your average teenager. Don't bother me. I want to be on my phone. All right. And the third one is so we have the smart, the wise, and we have the contrary is better than Rasha. They're not really wicked. They're just contrary. They just want to do their own thing. They're not wicked. So Rasha really means bad. The Rasha is Haman, who wanted to kill us. Rasha is Putin. Rasha, dare I say Trump. Rasha is Haman. Oh, those are Rasha. So then we get to the third one, simple. The simple one looks around, and if you sing songs and you dress up and you have a staff and you walk around the table and you hit people with scallions, the simple one learns by observation, by listening to singing, and by games, like my father used to play Nislach, throwing nuts across the table, says, what is this about? He does not understand. To him you shall say, with a strong hand, the Lord brought us forth from Egypt, from the house of bondage. When you get to the plagues, you must include that child. If any of you have an autistic child in the family, you give him the ping pong ball and say, throw this across the table. This is hail. And throw the rice. This is lice. And take the figure of the cow and put it down. The cow's died. You have to, and the mask, the black mask that I have, that's the angel of death. You have to be very graphic. You have to give him an easy book. I have a book that I had a speaker once at my synagogue, and it has the four sons as the Marx Brothers. This is a fantastic. If anyone wants the information for this is good for a child, and the kid will get a kick out of it. It's all cartoons. It's like the cartoon Haggadah. It's all illustrated. And then when you get to the child who doesn't know how to ask, a baby, a 2 or 3 year old, again, it's by tasting things, tasting the horseradish and the charoset and a little wine and all the things that the matzah, and that child will remember. You'd be surprised. The little ones will remember an early memory of a first Seder. And you give them the little toys, at the end, they look for the matzah, and you give them a toy, a present, they will remember. So it is the supreme teaching device. I mean, when I'm teaching my ESL ladies, I use everything. I use Shel Silverstein poems, and I use jokes, and I bring things in to show them, objects in the bag, kitchen items. What's this? This is a strainer. What's this? This is a grinder. This is a can opener. And that's the way they learn, and that's the way a child learns, right? So that's what this, I think, as a teacher all my life, over 50 years teaching, this is what this night is all about. And honestly, I am telling you from my heart, this is why we're still here. This is what was told to the Dalai Lama came and spoke to a Jewish leader and said, how is it your people are survived so many assaults? In every generation, people want to kill us. And it's true. It is absolutely true. Not just the Holocaust. It's all the way through history. They wanted to kill us. How did we survive? By our two things, our faith in one God and the Torah, and our traditions in the family. Right? Denise, you're shaking your head. You agree?
Yes. It's one of the things that drew me to Judaism. One of the main reasons I thought about converting. And it's very important. So
this is why. And if you go to any country and you go to any synagogue in France, or you go to even, I guess, I don't know if there's any synagogues in Syria, but if you go to China or Japan and you visit a Jewish community and you go on Shabbat, you're going to recognize that. Mm-hmm. They're going to take the Torah around and they're going to kiss it. And they're going to sing probably some melodies, Adon Olam or In Keloheinu or any of the, things that we really sing all over the globe. You're going to feel like you are part of that community because you have something in common with them. And it's a truth. It's not my idea, but this is true. This is what the rabbis say, that we belong to a global community, not just in Israel, not just in the US, and not just in our own synagogue, but we belong to a community that transcends space and time. We're like, those time bandits or whatever. So we are part of something so much grander and bigger than ourselves. This is what appeals to me as being Jewish, right? Like all of us, we're from different places. And what drew you to this is you wanted to know more about Hebrew. You wanted to understand the tefillot, the prayers. You wanted to be active members of your congregations. And so here we are. And that's why Passover for me is so meaningful, So I have coming to my Seder this family. The father's Mexican, the mom's Ecuadorian, and the little girl was born here. And it was a former student. They became friends, and they adopted me as abuelita. And I'm the little grandma. And they call me all the time. And the little girl says, "Oh, I love you so much, abuelita." And I'm going to see her on Saturday night in a play. And I went to her church to see her first communion, and I was at her birthday party. And, they said, next year you're going to come for Christmas. I have to see how I negotiate that one. I'm going to come for Christmas dinner or whatever. They know when I went to the house for a lunch, they know I'm kosher. She gave me a fruit and cheese. She knows this, don't give me empanadas with pork in it. So mm-hmm. They're very, my class, they're very respectful of my dietary laws. When I say put cheese and potatoes in it and I'll eat it. So, I mean, this is something really amazing. Anyway, so let's do the four sons. I sent you a page. I made a boo-boo when I sent the thing to myself to get the Zoom link. I sent it to my former class, so they're probably all going to get this. Welcome to Advanced Hebrew. Saying, what is that person doing? So Arba'ah, no, that's the answer. Avadim Hayinu. Okay. So 4 sons. Hacham mahu omer, the wise one, what does he say? Ma ha'edot, what's the laws? V'hachukim, these are different laws. V'hamishpatim, they're all different kinds of laws. Asher tziva Adonai Eloheinu etchem, that God commanded to you. V'af ata emar lo kahilchot hapesach, ein maftirin achar hapesach afikomen. You can't eat after the afikomen. So that's the last thing, the hunt for the afikomen. All right, so who would like to read Chacham? Who is my Chacham? Chachama, the wise daughter. Dorothy, want to give it a shot? I can't hear you. You're muted. Unmute.
All right, now I'm unmuted. Okay.
All right. Oh, so Dorothy's going to be our wise daughter.
Okay. Chacham mahu omer ma ha'edot v'hachukim v'hamishpatim asher tziva Adonai Eloheinu et Ham.
Hem.
Oh, et Ham. I'm sorry. The eighth.
Af.
Ta emar lo kihilu hot hapesach ein maftirin achar hapesach afikuman.
Okay.
Afikomen.
Yeah, afikomen, right. So that's what happens when you recognize a word that you know. It's like, hey,
yeah, I know.
got this. All right. So that's and then it says the wise child asks, what is the meaning of the laws, statutes, and customs which the Lord our God has commanded us? And you shall explain to him all the laws of Pesach, Passover, to the very last detail about the afikoman, which I believe is a Greek word, afikoman. Okay, so then we have a rasha. Does anyone feel quite contrary? Again, I think that the translation in English is better. It says the contrary child, but the Hebrew, the word rasha means wicked. Okay. So, because Ra is bad and Rasha means wicked. And there's no doubt about the translation. You can look it up in 5 different dictionaries. That's what they're going to say. And I don't believe that a child who's going through growing pains is wicked. I just think they're a teenager. Okay, so Rasha. Okay. Who would like to be the Rasha? All right, Diane, you can unmute for a moment.
Yes.
All right, good.
Hopefully there won't be a lot of noise in the background.
Okay.
Rasa, oh, they're starting with the noise. Rasha. Oh, that's right. Sorry, I got distracted with the noise. Rasha mahu omer ma ha'avodah hazot lachem velo lo ulfi shehusi et atzmo min haklal kofar ba'ikar va'af ata hakhei et shinav.
Good.
Yeah, you can tell I got confused with the vowels there. Va'emar lo ba'avor ze asa Adonai li b'seiti mimitzrayim li v'lo lo ilu haya sham lo haya niggal.
Yeah, he would not have been redeemed. So, in other words, I guess he would have still remained a slave. You know, if he didn't buy into all of this, you stay in Egypt and Take your lumps. The wise, okay, the contrary child asks. Who would like to read that in English? Charlene, would you unmute and read that in English? Do you have a book that has, you have a,
Yeah,
oh,
I've got a
good,
book.
great. On page 10, the bottom of the last paragraph.
The contrary son asks, what is the meaning of this service to you? Saying you, he excludes himself, and because he excludes himself from the group, he denies a basic principle. You may therefore tell him plainly, because of what the Eternal did for me when I came forth from Egypt, I do this for me and not for him. Had he been there, he would have not been redeemed.
So that's a pretty harsh punishment, right? He would have remained as a slave. Thank you, Charlene. Okay, so now we're getting to the other side. So we have opposites here. We have the wise one and we have the contrary, who doesn't give a big about all of this stuff. He doesn't care. Now, it's interesting that the simple child, the reading seems to be shorter, right? Like the wise one wants to know about everything. And the Rasha, we make a big hoop-de-doo about it. But the simple one, there's two little lines, right? Okay, I need a reader. There's two lines. Don't be afraid. All right, Denise, great.
Ma, hu, omer. Ma, matzit.
Mazot.
Mazot.
It's a Zion. Mm-hmm.
Va'amret, va'amreta,
Va'amarta.
Elav.
Yud Vav is always Av.
Elav.
Mm-hmm.
Behozer. Yad. Did I do that right? Yad.
Yeah. Chozek Yad.
Hotzienu Adonai.
Hotzianu.
Hotzianu Adonai. Mimitzrat.
No,
Mimitzram.
Mitzrayim. Don't shortcut the words.
Mitzrayim.
Mitzrayim. Take every syllable.
Mibet.
Beit.
Avadim.
Okay, in this reading, read that in English too. Do you have the English?
No, I don't have.
Anybody have the English? Okay, anybody have okay, Charlene, read it. The simple child.
The simple son asks, what is this? To him you, to him you shall say, with a strong hand, the Eternal One brought us out of Egypt from the house of bondage.
Great. So let's look back on those two lines, okay, about Tom. And can you tell me any words that you recognize?
Yad.
What's a yad?
A hand.
Right.
It's what you use. It's the pointer that we use on the Torah, correct?
Right. Okay. Dorothy, any other words you recognize? You're muted again. You're muted.
No, I was just putting up my hand for yod.
Oh, yeah, but do you know any, do you recognize any other words? See, I translated Tom instead of simple as not educated, as one who hasn't learned, right? It doesn't mean they don't have the capacity to learn.
Yeah, ma is what, and who is he?
Well, mazot, what is this? Mazot, what is this? That's the big question that the who doesn't know anything says, what's going on here? Mazot. All right, so any other words we know in that?
Mitzrayim.
Yeah.
Mitzrayim is what?
Egypt.
Egypt, good. What about the phrase Beit Avadim? Beit Avadim.
Is Beit house?
House of what?
House of some.
Avadim Hayinu. It's all about we were something in Egypt. What were we in Egypt?
Slaves.
We were slaves. Eved is a slave. Avadim. We were slaves in Egypt. Okay. What about the word Omer? A lot in the Torah you say Vayomer. Vayomer Hashem. Vayomer Moshe. Seen? Yeah. We used to play a game in Hebrew school. Shimon Omer. Simon says. Simon says, Yadayim al Harosh. Oops, you're out. Shimon didn't say it. Okay. So Tom, the uneducated one, says, Tom, Ma hu omer. What does he, H-E, say? Mazot. What's this? The Amarta, you will say, Elav, you will say to him. What kind of a hand is a chozek yad? Chozek, chazak, chazak, benit chazek. Chozek.
Strong.
Strong. At the end of one of the books of the Torah, we say, chazak, chazak, benit chazek. Okay, may you be fortified with Torah. The chozek yad, the strong hand. Hotzianu, what did God do for us? He
Took us out.
out, right? Hotzi. Hotzianu. Anu is us. He took us out. Ilu Hotzi Hotzianu, which we'll get to. Hotzianu, and took out us, God, me, from Mitzrayim. There's those little add-ons. Me, Mitzrayim, me, from Beit Avadim, from the house of slavery. Okay, now we're going to get to the Tinok, the baby. And again, the baby doesn't have a lot, not a big line here, because it's a baby. Who would like to read about the one who's too young to read this Hebrew? Somebody who had, Francine, you want to read a little bit?
Vishe'enu, Vishe'enu, Yodea, Lishol, At, Pate, Lo.
Petach.
Petach, Lo. Shene Emar.
By the way, just excuse me for interrupting. That is a word that's used a lot as a connecting point. Shnei Amar, as it is said, Vishnei Amar, and as it is said, and then they're going to quote something maybe from the Torah or one of the prophets or one of the sages. Shnei Amar, keep going.
Deta, Levinecha, Bayom, Hahu, Lemor, Ba'avur Ze Asa Adonai Li Bitsiti Mitzrayim.
Very good. Okay. Charlene, will you read that for us about Tom, about the, not the Tom, the young one? The
Sure.
one who asked a question.
As for the son who does not even know how to ask a question, you must begin for him, as it is written in the Bible. You shall tell your child on that day, this is done because of that which the Eternal did for me when I came forth out of Egypt.
Great. Now, the baby is not going to understand all that and remember all that philosophy, that history. However, if you give the baby I've seen these squeezy Torahs, like a felt Torah, and if you give him some nice sweets, like at the end of the meal, or macaroons and things like that, chocolate-covered raisin, I think in the deepest memory, I really think they're going to remember that, because I can remember when I was growing up in the Bronx and I was a little girl, a long table with all the relatives, and I always got the white part of the egg in the borscht. And I think I had wine, and I think I slipped under the table because I was drunk than some of the wine. So maybe they'll remember the taste of the wine or the matzah. But I think there's some kind of memory there that you could go back pretty far, even with a child. So you need to think of, well, what would a little kid like? And a book with pictures, a children's book of Passover and the Torah and things like that. And then we get to the plagues. I have these like pull toys I got from my Judaica shop, and they crawl along the table, and the masks. And we dress somebody up in a bathrobe and a shmata, a towel on the head. and they come at the end for Elijah the prophet, Eliyahu Hanavi, and everybody stands, and I have an American flag and an Israeli flag, and we sing Hatikva. I mean, these things are what memories are made out of, and that's how I wanted to bring up my children, because I didn't have that much of it when I was growing up. Okay, so the 4 sons, or we can tell it, the 4 children, Arba Banot, the 4 daughters. Okay, the next one I wanted to go to was in the Haggadis on page 12, Vihi Sha'amda. That was the next one. Okay, so we cover the matzah, raise the cup of wine, and say. And so this is really interesting. This is the promise that has sustained our ancestors and us. For it was not one enemy alone who rose up against us to destroy us. In every generation, there are those who rise up against us and seek to destroy us. But the Holy One, blessed be He, saves us from their hands. Okay, that's quite a lesson to be teaching your children, that we are a persecuted people. All the more reason for you to be learned, for you to know who you are and where you came from and what your history is. All the more so that you should know about this, right? And every holiday has its history. We have a lot of holidays that are historical holidays. Look, Hanukkah is not a blue and white Christmas. Hanukkah is history. Passover is history. Even the Shalosh Regalim and Shavuot, it's history of the people accepting the commandments and the whole Torah. And they say, we will listen and we will do. Nishma v'na'aseh. We'll hear it and we'll do it. I didn't hear anybody say, not me, count me out, I'm not it, right? As a people, as Am Yisrael, we'll hear it. No, we'll do it. Na'aseh v'nishma, we'll do it, and we'll hear the rest. We'll hear everything. So take it on faith. All right. So this is V'hi She'amda, and it has this melody. V'hi She'amda, V'hi She'amda, Lavoteinu v'lanu, and then it repeats, Shelo echad bilvad, Amad aleinu lechalotenu, Ella shebechol dor vador, Omdim aleinu lechalotenu, V'hakadosh baruch hu, Matzilenu miyadam. Okay, this is the promise that has sustained us. Okay, V'hi She'amda, that which was said. And at the end it says Hakadosh. How do you translate Hakadosh Baruch Hu? Hakadosh.
Kadosh means
Bless
holy.
He. Holy, bless He.
The Holy One, Hakadosh, the Holy One, blessed is He. Matzilenu, who saved us, miyadam. It's very graphic, from their hands. Okay, from their hands. So, okay, so let's see if I'll say it, and I want you to, actually, I'm going to sing it, and I want you to sing it after me. Try to do that. Okay, all right. V'hi she'amda.
V'hi she'amda.
V'hi she'amda.
V'hi she'amda.
Lavotenu v'lanu.
Lavotenu v'lanu.
Shelo echad bilvad.
Shelo echad bilvad.
Bilvad.
Amad aleinu.
Amad aleinu.
Lechalotenu.
Lechalotenu.
Ella shebechol dor vador.
Ella shebechol dor vador.
Omdim aleinu.
Omdim aleinu.
Lechalotenu. V'hakadosh Baruch Hu. Matzilenu miyadam. Okay, so that's Vihisha Amda. And
I have
so,
one question.
yeah,
On line 2, right in the middle, Shebhol, but you said Shebehol. Why do you pronounce the E there? What's different? I mean, how do you know Shebehol or Shebhol?
I asked the cantor once some of these questions, and it goes with the melody. Ela Shebechol, Shebechol, like Shebechol, Halelot, right? Shebechol, because it sounds sweeter, not Shebchol. It's part of the with the cantorial, the singing of it. Shebechol, Dor Vador. And what does Dor Vador mean? The Dor Vador. Right. So when is a door not a door? When it's a generation? Door, door Vidor from generation. So it's door Vidor, generation to generation. Omdim Aleinu, they stand up against us and not praising. They're fighting us. They're opposing us. They rise up against us. That's what it means. They're not bowing to us. Okay. So then the next thing we have. This is my order here. We have the 4 sons. Okay, the 10 plagues. So the 10 plagues is a chance to have a lot of fun and do a lot of crazy stuff. You can put, if you have any kids, you can take some drops of food coloring and put it in the water. You know, here is a glass, and then take it on the side and put the drops of food coloring and dam. Okay, here's another thing that I learned late in life. Plate, your dinner plate in front of you, right? And you take your finger and you put your finger in the wine and you shake it off in the plate. What's the natural instinct to do what?
Lick your
Lick
finger.
your finger.
Lick your finger. I was told you don't do that because these are the plagues.
Right.
It's not something should be sweet. Just drop it off in the plate and then get ready for the next. Take the next drop, but this don't lick your finger. And along with that, there's a midrash about when the Jews were sea was split, and the Israelites go across to Yabasha, to the dry land on the other side, to the wilderness, so they can get on with their lives and get out of Egypt. The waves then come crashing down, and the Pharaoh's chariots. Bechol Chelo, all of his chariots and his charioteers get drowned in the water, in the Yam HaSuf, in the Sea of Reeds. So the angels are criticizing God. The angels are criticizing God because they're saying, you should not, even God, you should not be rejoicing over the death of some of your creations, even though they were our enemies, but you should not rejoice over the death of your enemies. That's not a Jewish thing to do.
Right.
So that's a midrash, and it's kind of interesting. The philosophy, like we are held to a very tight line, very accountable for all our actions. So while I might want to, about some of our politicians, say a few choice words and what I think should happen to them, and about Putin and about the guy in Hungary and all of these dictators, and a Brazilian, what I might want to say, I shouldn't say. I shouldn't wish them evil because that's not the Jewish way to do things. So what I say is, well, if something should happen to them, I won't cry. I don't have to wish it on them, but if it happens, good. All right, but we're not supposed to wish people to die or something bad should happen to them, okay? Not even to animals. That's why we don't hunt animals, okay? Because we consider that all life is sacred. because who created all life? Hashem, God. All life comes from God, and wishing creatures to die is not what is expected of us. Okay, Francine, were you going to say something?
Yes, when my kids were little, I would put chocolate chips in their wine glass, and they would take out a chocolate chip for each of the plagues. And they really understood they couldn't eat those chocolate chips. That made an impression.
Very good. That's a great idea for little ones. Really good idea. I love it. Anybody else has some good ideas about the plagues? Okay, so that's very clever. All right, and again, it goes back to what we're doing. What we're doing is like a sight and sound. You know, when you go to like in Israel, they have the sound and sight. You go to Migdal David, David's tower, and they have a whole thing on a big wall, you know, where you hear music and you have narration about Jewish history. This is done in a lot of places, the sight and sound. Okay, so we are appealing to all sensory perceptions in Passover. Okay, so now we have these 10 plagues, and again, we're not going to lick our fingers. All right, and if you have the book, it's page 16 and 17. Okay, so these are the things that we're wishing, and we dip our pinky in or any finger in, and so it's Dam, Sephardea, Kinim, Aro, Dever, Shechin, Barad, Arbe, Choshech. There's the double duty dot. Choshech. You have the letter Chet, and you have the dot. That dot, that is the dot over the shin. So we know it's a shin. It's also the O vowel over the Chet. Now, some places may have two dots, but my Haggadah does not. So you have to know, what is Choshech?
Darkness.
Darkness, Choshech, yeah. And Makat Bechorot. Makat, killing of, who is the Bechor? Bechor? When you have a Pidyon Haben, you redeem the Bechor.
Firstborn
male. So there's no such thing as a Pidyon Habat, as far as I know. So, Bechorot. Bechor is a firstborn. It's interesting that the word Bechorot has a feminine ending.
Right.
Oh, so the word Bachur is a man, a boy. Oh, he's my Bachur. He's like my boyfriend. And Bachora is a girl. So this is Bechorot. And I never noticed it before, but I just noticed it now. It's got a feminine ending, firstborn, Bechorot. In the synagogue, in your synagogues, they'll probably have the morning of Passover, they'll have a Siyum HaBachor, that is a gathering of the firstborns for a little study session. And then they have like a little breakfast. Okay, in the morning of the of Passover, I'm running around like a crazed person. So we're doing the cooking and all the rest. And then will become the burning of the matzah about 10 o'clock. And after about 11:30, you're not supposed to eat any matzah. That's it. Save your taste. And I don't have any matzah all year long. So when I have the first taste of matzah, it's at the Seder. It's at the Seder. I don't have any during the day. So what are you supposed to eat? Salad. So you have to go out. A lot of people used to go to a deli because they could eat it out, you know, have a corned beef sandwich, but not in the house. The house is free of chametz. Or you eat it outside and throw away all the crumbs. You know, everybody has different customs, but you're not supposed to have matzah. That's one thing until the Seder. Okay, so we have these lovely, dam is blood, frogs, sephardea, vermin. Yeah, vermin could be any kind of pests, could be lice or whatever. Kinim, aro, wild beasts. Dever is, what do we get to? 1, 2, 3, 4 wild beasts. Pestilence. They have hair later on. I think it must be some kind of disease. I don't know. Dever, boils, shechin, that's boils. Barad is hail, arbe, locusts, choshech, darkness, makat bechorot, the slaying, the killing of the bechor. And that was not just of the children of the Egyptian firstborn males. It was the firstborn of livestock too, cows and sheep. So that was pretty extensive. Okay, so how are we doing? We're doing it very well. So now Dayenu, my son-in-law does everything. I think he does every single thing in the Haggadah. But on the page after, in all the books, I have the same thing. They say Ditzach Adash Be'achav. And can you figure out what that is?
Where?
What is it, Elizabeth?
Where are we?
Oh, I didn't send this to you, but on the page after, in every Haggadah, in the page after the plagues, it says Rabbi Yehuda Haya notain bahem simanim. So there's three words. Ditzach, Adash, Be'achav. They're like three abbreviations. Where do they come from? You never learned this. I will teach you something new. What's the first plague?
Done.
Blood.
The first plague.
Blood.
Blood, dam. What's the second plague?
Frog.
Frogs. Sephardia.
Word.
Frog. Sephardi. There.
Okay. And what's the third plague?
King.
King.
Now,
Life.
when a chaf or chaf comes at the end of a word, it's a final chaf, right? So look at the first word. How is it spelled? Dalet, Sadi, Chaf Sofit, final chaf. So how many letters are there in Ditzach, Adash, Be'achav? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many letters are in those three words? Ditzach, Adash. There's 10. Does that give you any clue?
10 plagues.
So what they did, so this rabbi said, I have a shortcut to refer to the 10 plagues. Ditzach, that stands for Dam, Sephardia, and Kinim. He made words to remember the 10 plagues out of the first letter of all of the 10 plagues. Dam, the Dalet, Sephardia, the Tzadi. And when you have a kaf or a chaf at the end, it's a final chaf, Ditzach. And then it goes on to Aro, the ayin, Dever, the Dalet, and Shem Shechin, the boils. Then you have the Bet for Barad, and the Aleph for Arbe, and the Chet for Choshech, and Makat the Bet Bechorot of the firstborn. So they gave that. So those three words are abbreviations. They're like words that are made up. They don't mean anything. They're just three groups of words that remind you in one swell foop of the 10 plagues. And that's kind of cute. Now you can teach these little tidbits to someone. Then comes, all right, and he gave it by the Hebrew initials. Okay, then we have a whole bunch of, we don't go into, how many plagues this would be, and you get up to, I think, like 250 at the end of page 18, but we don't read that. Well, my son-in-law reads most of that. All right. Then when he gets to Dayenu, he reads the whole thing, and they don't do, here's something that I found out. The Hasidim, or at least my Hasidim, my family, don't do after the first part and you have the meal. They do Hallel, they pray Hallel, but they don't do all the fun songs. They don't sing the songs. Women are not supposed to sing anyway, but this woman sings. But they can't come to if he ever came to my Seder, he would pass out. He would just pass out seeing me lead the whole thing and singing all the songs and all the, anyway, he would not be pleased. So anyway, when at our Seder, because it starts to get lengthy, you know, and people are getting hungry and they get fidgety. I mean, guests, and I have some non-Jewish guests always. So we abbreviate a little bit on Dayenu. So the three main lines we sing is line 1, Ilu Hotzi Anu Mi Mitzrayim, and then we do it backwards. Mi Mitzrayim Hotzi Anu Dayenu. What does Dayenu mean?
Enough.
Enough. Right, Dayenu. It's enough for us. Nu at the end is up. Dayenu. Okay, so that Ilu, if Hotzianu, if you took us out, Mi Mitzrayim, from Egypt, and then, so that's the chorus, and we do, that would have been enough. And then we go from line 1 to line 5, not line 5, is it 6? Oh, then we go to the next page. That we do that. We don't do all of this because it'll take you forever. Then we do on the next page, it's on 20 of mine. Ilu natan lanu et hashabat natan lanu dayenu. If he had given us the Sabbath. And then we do, the last one we do is, oh, this one we added fairly recently. No, we say, Ilu natan lanu et ha-Torah natan lanu dayenu. We just take the really significant ones. If he had given us the Sabbath and if he had given us the Torah, I think I gave you those lines there. And the fourth one is, and I added this one because I thought if had he brought us to the land of Israel, it would have been enough. So then I went, Ilu hichni sanu la'eretz Yisrael, hichni sanu dayenu. Okay, lahachnis is to enter. If he had entered us into Eretz Yisrael, it would have been enough, you know. So brought us and put us inside. And then everybody sings, die, dayenu, die, dayenu, die, dayenu, 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 and you can keep going, die, die. And the ones who are not Jewish like that, because they can sing along. There's a one word, die, dayenu, die, dayenu, die, dayenu, dayenu, dayenu. Hey, okay, so they like that because they have one word to sing and they can be part of the Hebrew, and they really get a charge out of that. So it's nice to facilitate where they can. If you have non-Jewish guests or non-Jewish people in your family, they can do the English readings when you read the 4 sons and when you read the plagues. Have them participate. Don't have them just sit there, you know. So I have them redo the readings and doing Dayenu. And then when we get to the end, there are things that they can participate. So I want to be inclusive, always inclusive. This family that I spoke of, the Ecuadorian mom and a Mexican dad, they wanted to come back. I said, I'm inviting you to the Seder. Oh, we can't wait to come. They love it. And the little girl, I said, you're going to be my main man. You're going to help me with everything. I'm going to tell you to give out the sunglasses when it's darkness. I go to Dollar Store and I buy cheap sunglasses and we hand those out. Everybody sits around looking like movie stars. They all love that. They ask me sometimes, can I take this home? Yeah, take it home. Okay, so now we have, now, of course, you could say all that, and there would be a chance for somebody, had he brought us out from Egypt. And if you have several non-Jewish guests, you can divide them up and say, thank you, so-and-so continue, and that's really nice. Okay, so I want to get to the last thing I wanted to do today. So we finished with Dayenu, and now you have in big letters, whoops. When you have something in big letters, what do you think that means?
It's important.
That's important. Yeah. So the important stuff, this is Rabban Gamliel, who was once the head of the academy of the Sanhedrin. So he's a big shot, Rabban Gamliel. So Rabban is Rabbi. It's the same thing with Rabbi, but he's in Talmud, Rabban Gamliel, so it's in Aramaic. So Rabban Gamliel, Haya Omer, was saying, used to say, call all, Shelo, who didn't, Amar, say, Shlosha Devarim, 3 things. Elu, they are, Bapesach, they are on Passover, like symbols. Lo Yatsa, he didn't go out. Well, this is an expression. Lo Yatsa Yedei Chovato. It didn't go out from his hands, his obligation. You like that part? The Elu, and these are Hain, and these are them. So the 3 things you must have at a Passover Seder, okay, even if it's 2 people, even if it's, there's a book that the Reform movement came out, is how to have a Seder with 2 people. Just let's say it's a widowed mom and her son, right? Or two friends. So you can still have, you don't have to, there's no minyan required. It doesn't say anywhere that you need a minyan. Okay, so Rabban Gamliel Haya Omer Kol Shelo Amar Shlosha Devarim Elu Bapesach Lo Yatsa Yedei Chovato Be'elu Hain. And these are the things that every Seder must have. Pesach, the Passover offering. And what would that be? That would be your shank bone.
Yes, the shank bone, yeah.
Shank bone. Some people, my daughter included, uses a chicken neck. A chicken neck. I go to Gourmet Glatt, which is in Nassau County. I'm on Long Island, and they always have wrapped up in a little bit of plastic wrap shank bones for everybody. So Pesach, the Passover offering, okay? And because we no longer are going to offer a heifer out in the backyard, and you can't anyway. The only place to offer anything was at the temple, the Beit HaMikdash in Yerushalayim, which no longer exists. So instead of actually offering something, we have the shank bone that Zeroa that represents that. And you know, if people thought, well, I can have my barbecue, I can offer. No, only place the offerings were, and God help us if we ever had another temple, I hope not, would be in the temple and would be in Jerusalem. That's it. No other place. Okay. So matzah, that's integral. You must have matzah, and on your plate you have 3 matzahs. Some people say they are for the 3 classifications: the Kohanim, the Leviim, and the Yisraelim, the 3 kinds. You know, Kohen, Levite, and Israelite, and the bitter herbs, the remembrance of slavery. So you can have a very simple Seder, and you can just pare it down. You don't have to have a 3-hour Seder. But you must have, according to Rabban Gamliel, who was a big shot in the Talmudic times, Pesach, Matzah, Umaror. And then it goes on to say, it explains, then the next couple of pages explain everything. Okay, so the Passover offering, the shank bone, the Passover offering, which our ancestors ate in temple days, what was the reason for it? It was because the Holy One, blessed be He, passed over the houses of our ancestors in Egypt. And so we have the word Pasach. Pesach comes from Pasach. He passed over. So you have to have, and that was the lamb's blood. Remember, they had the lamb, and the people were instructed to put on their lintel of the door frame, the top of the door frame, the blood of the Passover offering, which was the lamb, so that the angel of death would pass over. So that's so important, because if you didn't have that lamb's blood, how would the angel of death know that you're an Israelite and don't come here? Nix, ixnay, nix, don't come here. So that is really a very important part of our being freed, okay? Because everybody else in their houses, here, and it says, as you shall say, it is the Passover offering to the Lord who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt when he smote the Egyptians and spared our houses. And the people bowed their heads and worshiped. So, okay. So what I gave you was, so repeat after me. Rabban Gamliel.
Rabban
Gamliel.
Haya Omer.
Haya
Omer.
Kol Shalo Amar.
Kol Shalo Amar.
Shlosha Devarim.
Shlosha Devarim.
And you see again, you see the shin, sh, and now the dot goes with the lamed. It's an O vowel, but it's also, it's what we call the double duty dot. It has two duties. It's also the dot on the shin, okay? And the name Moshe also has that. Okay, Shlosha Devarim.
Shlosha Devarim.
Elu Bapesach.
Elu Bapesach.
Lo Yatsa.
Lo Yatsa.
Yedei.
Yudei.
Chovato.
Chovato.
The Elu Hain.
Elu Hain.
Pesach.
Pesach.
Matzah.
Matzah.
Umaror.
Umaror.
So you have to have a shank bone or a chicken neck. You must have matzah, and you must have the bitter herb. And so those are the three main symbols of Passover. If you're going to do anything at all, just have a regular meal, and you have those things, and you talk about them, then you have at least the bare bones, the very bare bones of a Seder. And then they start reading it. Okay, so next week, we're going to have fun, and we're going to do some of the fun songs. And so then after this, everybody waits for the plays because they know after we do this, we point to the matzah, blah, blah, blah. We explain about the bitter herbs, more blah, blah, blah. Oh, this is important. I'll give it to you next week. Bechol door by door. In every generation, one must see oneself as having personally come forth from Egypt, as it is written, Shnei Amar, and you shall tell your child on that day, this is done because of what the Lord did for me. So we're telling our children about the fact that our great ancestors were slaves in Egypt, and we are still in 2023 connected to that experience, because that experience led to us wandering in the wilderness, wandering up to the foot of Har Sinai, Mount Sinai, having some kind of experience with God, with thunder and lightning, and receiving the tablets of the law. Remember, the golden calf comes after, and Moses shatters them and then goes up again and gets the second set of tablets. So, but anyway, we got the law, and Moses was up there for 40 days getting the law. And that binds us into a nation, not just a group of haphazard rabble of slaves. And that's where we congeal. And then the rest is history. We have a lot of experiences wandering in the desert, but that's not Passover. Passover is we're in Egypt, we're slaves, now we're free. Hallelujah. That's so, but we'll do some of the fun songs because everybody knows, oh, we're going to have more wine and we're eventually going to eat. And everybody says, oh, page 26, the second cup, wash the hands. And we all know what's after that. And that's Shulchan Orech. We have the bitter herbs and the matzahs and all that. And then Shulchan is the table, Orech, the prepared table, the Seder meal, and everybody's happy. Now, we used to have some relatives who never made it to the second part. They'd fall asleep on the couch after the meal. Don't forget, this meal is without end. This meal is a meal of meals. I don't know what you are accustomed to, but we have everything. We have dishes with matzah, a dish that I make with chopped meat and matzah, and we have turkey, and we have all kinds of vegetable dishes, and it goes on forever. And then you have a whole bunch of desserts. Now, here's something that I didn't know. tell me if I'm wrong. When I was a kid, we always had those wonderful seed candies. But I understand that that's not kosher. The seed candies, if you look at the bag, it's not kosher for Passover. I think it's kosher, but I don't think it's kosher for Passover with the seeds. Does anyone know about that?
I don't even know what is seed candy.
It's sesame.
Sesame
Sesame.
candy.
You're talking
Sesame
about the
candy.
sesame
And
seed.
honey.
Oh, okay.
Sesame and honey and I
Oh,
love
yeah. Okay.
yeah. So that is one of the candies, and then there's like the marmalade kind of things, the fruit slices and all, but those are kosher for Passover. The sesame,
Are the seeds considered kiniot?
I guess no. Did you ever have that at your Seder? You know, at the dessert, we all put a whole bunch of stuff, macaroons out, and
No,
I don't
but
know. Might be.
I don't know if they're kiniot.
They might
So
be.
some people are having kiniot.
Right.
Well,
Sfardim.
Sephardim are having rice, but I never had rice. You know, that's not something I would eat at Passover. So that's it. Until
Okey-doke.
next week, songs. We're gonna sing all the fun songs.
Shabbat shalom.
Wish me luck on
Shabbat
Saturday.
shalom,
I have to
everyone.
leave.
Yes,
go to
good
the
luck
service.
tomorrow.
Oh, I'm still
Good
studying.
luck with your
All
readings,
right. Yes,
Carol.
good luck.
My head is
Great.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye.
see you next week. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.